You can't just keep having house be 3 times wages, 5 times wages, 10 times wages, 20 times wages, and fix that by making mortgages more accessible. And then our kids have $2, $3, $4 million mortgages. Is that what you want?
Gary Stevenson, thank you for joining the business.
Thanks for having me.
Australians have trillions of dollars tied up in superannuation for their life savings. You're a trader, you're a good trader. Where do you see the landmines in the global financial system? Are we going to see a Wall Street tech wreck at some point?
It's difficult right now because asset prices broadly have gone up so much in the last couple of years. I have got a lot of money in gold. It's gone up like crazy, but also basically every stock market. The big risks, you'll hear no surprise, the big risks are US AI and tech stuff, which has gone up enormously. A lot of those companies are probably significantly overvalued.
And it's a bubble?
Probably, yes. Not being an AI expert, I think these things are overvalued. I think they have a big risk of falling. I think long run, we do see assets go up. I'm short the NASDAQ. I'm massively short Bitcoin. I don't believe in that stuff. But I think in the long run, stuff go up, but the volatility is going to be massive. It has been recently.
Analysts have told the ABC that at some point there will be a major correction or a crash. Do you see that?
There always is. There always is. But if you look at the history of the last sort of 10, 15, 20 years, I think the economy is going to be very weak. I think living standards will fall. The last 20 years shows us when the economy is weak and living standards fall, asset prices usually go up, including stock markets. When there is a big dip, I will be buying, like most rich people almost always do. But yeah, even last year we saw a massive dip. Given the levels of volatility and the speed of the rise, large falls are almost inevitable. But in general, rich people will buy in those falls and have been benefiting, yeah.
Gary Stevenson, we've had a change of leadership with the Conservative Party. The Coalition Party has changed leaders and it's brought up the tax debate again. Who to tax, how much to tax. We do have a 5% deposit scheme for first home buyers.
Yeah.
Labor brought that in.
Yeah.
A 5% deposit scheme means that you can own a home with a much lower deposit.
Yeah.
Is that risky? Do you see that as risky, or do you see that as a great way to reduce inequality?
There is no doubt that buying a house with a 5% deposit is risky. I think the obvious consequence is it's going to push up house prices. I think the only people that really benefit from that are the guys that are the mortgage lenders. They're not taking the risk. Listen, we want to be making housing more affordable by bringing up wages and changing that relationship between asset prices and wages. You can't just keep having house be 3 times wages, 5 times wages, 10 times wages, 20 times wages, and fix that by making mortgages more accessible. And then our kids have $2, $3, $4 million mortgages. Is that what you want? We need to look at the actual distribution of wealth and power in society rather than fixing it by trying to mess around with the banking system. That doesn't mean don't buy a house, but do we want this country to be a country where the only way to buy a house is to take a $5 million bet? Because if we keep going that direction, that's what it's going to be like in 20 years.
You're a sort of a revolutionary in terms of your fight against inequality.
Thank you.
Have you made the sort of progress that you would have hoped to have made at this point?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. The audience is massive now, especially in the UK, but not just in the UK. All around the world, there's a massive audience here. I've been walking around, getting recognised on the street.
You've been recognised as through here?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, it keeps happening. Yeah. Wealth taxes are phenomenally popular with the public, but where I've been incredibly frustrated, is the lack of pickup by mainstream politicians. So
why do you think that is?
That is a great question. I think they're scared. I think a lot of politicians haven't. I think they're kind of stuck in what we would call in the UK the Westminster bubble, their little politicians' bubble. They're scared about their donors. In many cases, senior politicians are or become, soon after leaving office, pretty wealthy. They're not being hurt by it. See, the problem with an inequality crisis is it feels good for rich people, and most politicians are in that community of rich people. I think they're out of touch. I think there's an element of classism in it. British people recognise very quickly I've got a working class accent. That's why instead of writing in newspapers, I go on YouTube, because what I want to communicate is it is the ordinary people who will be hurt. If ordinary people expect politicians to fix this, they'll be waiting a long time.
What's curious though, Gary Stevenson, is that the numbers for you are there. The following is there.
Yeah.
Millions of people want your YouTube clips. So what is an example of something that would happen in the halls of power that would make you believe I'm making a difference?
Listen, put a little bit of money into getting a team of good economists into researching and designing a wealth tax which targets the richest in society. You know, just start doing the work. The frustration I get is whenever I talk to politicians, they always say, listen, that's too difficult, we're not ready for it, we don't have the tax policy in place, we're worried about the next budget, and every year the same thing happens. Economy gets worse, living standards fall, house prices go up, housing gets less affordable. You need to have politicians who are willing to prepare in the long term to fix serious problems. Nobody is dealing with this growing inequality. They're not even starting to deal with how do we design the tax. I think I want to see some seriousness in addressing this long-term problem of growing inequality, and that means putting a little bit of money into researching tax policy.
Again, Australia is on the other side of the world, but you are here. What are you hoping to achieve over the next couple of months in Australia?
You know, I see that a lot of Australians watch my stuff. You know, I look at the Australian political and economic situation, it's so similar. It's so similar. Young people can't afford houses, there's a lack of hope in the future, inequality is growing. Listen, this is a country which tells people it believes in having a fair go. And it is a country which has for a long time provided affordable housing and good living conditions to ordinary working Australians. You're losing that. You're losing that. I want to come and show Australians what is happening in the UK, what is happening in Europe, public services being shut down, poverty exploding. That will happen here unless we deal with inequality. That's why I'm here. I want to come back in a couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years time, and see other people here in Australia spreading the same message, holding the politicians' feet to the fire, forcing this country to do something about inequality so that your kids and grandkids will have a fair go at having a family and buying a house.
Gary Stevenson, thank you for your time.
Thanks.